So this will be the second in the series of 3 videos on how to model this hand mixer. In the first one, I've shown you how to use the loft tool and projecting sketches onto surface. And then we've created this solid object thus far, right? So in this one, I'm going to do things slightly differently to what I did in the first one, in that I'm going to create the surface sweep and cut after I've created the solid model. So let me just show you. I think I showed this to you in class. I created that surface sweep using these 2 sketches, those 2 there, and just swept them using the swept surface tool. So that's fairly straightforward. And then I cut away using the surface cut tool, right? So I suppose let me just show you how I did that. You just take whatever surface you want to cut with, and then make sure that the arrow is pointing in the correct direction, and then say cut. So you'll be left with the surface, which you can now hide. And that's a separate body. You can see it at the top here. There's one solid body, and then there's one surface body in these folders. So the next thing I did was to offset this surface by 4 millimeters or so, I think. That's fairly simple. You just select the offset surface command, select the face you want, and then tell it what dimension you want, and then tell it in which direction, and say okay. So now I've got two separate parts here, a surface and a body. And then the next step that I took was to go to a split line. So this sketch I placed on the front plane, I think it was. Let's just make sure about that. So that is it's the right plane. So this sketch I created from scratch, you could offset using that line there, but I wanted this to be something I could manipulate as to proportion. So for instance, if I wanted the height to be slightly smaller, I can do that, which I can't do if I've offset. So that's just a sketch centered around the center line, and then I've used the split line tool to split that surface. So that should make sense. So that surface there has been split. So let's just quickly have a look at that. There I've chosen the sketch, which is that one there, and then the face, and then it'll split it into two separate faces. Okay, and then I've used the delete face command to delete the faces that I don't want. So let's just clear these two, and then just select those 2 faces. And I've made sure that it's just using the delete command, no delete and patch, because I want a gap between these 2 faces. The next step I took was to do a surface loft, and here there's a little trick to this. So let's have a look at it. Let's just clear these selections. If you select within the profiles, if you select an edge, you'll only be able to select one edge at a time, right? And then you'll have to finish this off because you won't be able to select another set, and then continue. So what you do instead, so you'll have to do this like 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then you'll have to knit them together. So what you do instead is you right click in the profiles dialog box, and you say selection, you click on the selection manager, and this will allow you to select either a group of items, or a face, a region, a single open loop, or in this case, a closed loop. So closed loop will allow me to select that whole closed loop. You have to click the OK button, and then do this again, selection manager, select the other closed loop, say OK, and then you have the 2 of them. And then you can put guide curves in here, and you can obviously play with the start and end constraints. So it's a surface loft command. It's that one there. Where is it? Lofted surface. Right, so now I've got these separate bodies, and because I deleted that face, it is now an empty body. So I need to knit this together. So it's the surface knit. Just go to this command here, knit surface. Let's get that. So there's the knit surface. You just select all of the bodies. and you say create solid, make sure that that's ticked. And then you should have a body, a complete solid. Right. So from here, I revolved this part that I was going to cut out in the front, and then I combined it. So the way I showed you is probably a long way around, because of course what you could do is you could go straight to revolve cut, features, revolve cut, instead of using a revolve body. But I did this because I wanted to show you the combined feature. So at the moment, if I go into this command, you'll see that I've chosen a sketch, which is going around a line, and then I've made sure that the merge result button isn't ticked. So just to give you an idea of how that sketch was created, if you need to know, I've simply placed a center line at a certain distance from, or it's linked to some other thing, I'm not sure what it is, and then I've dimensioned. So it's that, there it is, it's half, that half there with this little pip in it. So those are two separate bodies. If I go to the top here, you can see there are two bodies. There's that body and then that body. So the neat trick here is to use the combine command, which I can activate at the top using the S key. Combine, and that should be available over there. Let's just see where that is in the tools. All right, so it is here under surfaces. You also have it in there, and then you select the body. You make sure that you have the operation type at subtract, not at add or common, and select the main body you want to keep, and then the bodies you want to subtract from it, and you say okay. Since I've already done that, I'm going to delete this one. Right, and then I've just done a little bit more modeling here. So there's a large fillet and then a smaller fillet. Right, and that fillet there was important because I showed in class that you can use this as an asymmetric fillet in which you can decide where the weighting goes. So let's just go through that again. So let's make this 5 units there, and let's make that 10, and you'll see that the weighting of the fillet goes in a different direction. You can also decide whether you want this to be elliptic, curvature continuous, or conic row. Those are just slight variations you'll see as you select them on how deeply that curve fills in or not. And then conic row, you can determine what the percentage is by typing in, I think, anything up to 1. I may be wrong. Type in 2 and see. So it has to be up to 0.95. So it's a percentage really. Right, and obviously that doesn't work, but 0.5 does. But in this case, I chose curvature continuous. There's another video I have about how curvature continuity works, but there are also plenty of other content creators who show you how it works. So that's okay. In fact, let me just go back because I want that relationship changed. This to be 8 and that to be 5. There we go. Right, and then the next thing was just to put a fillet along the edge, a standard fillet. And then I forget what the sketch was for. Yes, okay, so that sketch there was in order to make a cutout in the top to sculpt the sort of the opening for the switch, which I did by first of all extruding a shape. So this shape here, let's go to the front. All I've done is I've offset that item from here and then given it a unlinked it and given it a dimension, and then created a square or a box around it. And then the extrusion is not merged. So here you'll see it's not merged. So I have two separate bodies. Go to the top again. There you'll see that's the main one, and that's the one I've just created. And the reason I've done that is because I now want to do a bit more sculpting on this item before I cut out this item. So let's hide this one. go to this boss extrude. I think I just added the round bit on the end. That should be fairly self-explanatory. A sketch on that plane with a half round. And then I created a plane. So here is a case in which I can't remember how I created the sketch, but it's very simple to find it. If you just hover your mouse over the plane, you can see what else uses that sketch, and it's this surface sweep and this surface cut. So I'd created that sketch in some other, obviously before this plane, but now since it's been subsumed in this item here, there you can see what it is, what it looks like. So it's just a sketch which is tangential to this line, and this line is 4 millimeters from the surface, and then it kind of extends beyond that surface there. So that's what the line does. And then I've used that, let's just hide this again. I've used that line there, and this line here to do a surface sweep, which is that item there. I'm not going to show it to you. And then I use that to cut away this bit here. So with the surface cut. So the same as we did in the right at the beginning of this video. Just take whatever surface it is. That's the surface there. You can see it's kind of outlined. If I want to make it visible, I just go to the top here and go to that one there. Make it visible. Okay, so I've used that surface to cut away this lower half of that body. So just need to watch out here that you don't have auto select, so that it doesn't select all of the bodies, because then you're going to have a problem. So unselect auto select and then reselect this body and make sure the arrow is pointing in the right direction. So there we go. I've got a nice little body that I can now subtract from the other one. So one other trick I showed you in class was that I linked the end of this sketch to the intersection of these two edges. So that's why I hadn't put a dimension in. And the trick in that is, and now if I exit the actual item, let's just get that one up and looking at us, right? You can now select a face and drag this out. And since the two are linked, you can see what's happening. So I'll try and show that in a slightly more visible way. Let's change the view to hidden lines removed, or actually put the hidden lines in. And if I just Control Shift to grab that face, and then go back into a normal to view here. If I now drag this face out, you can see that the sketch itself is adjusting to tie in with the front of that face. I can't drag this face backwards to a certain point because it's linked to the surface, but I can drag it forwards and I can see to what degree it's going to cut this other surface. So you've got an on-the-fly interaction of objects here so that you can see visually what you're doing. Let's hide this so that it's out of the way. And then I can't remember if I put a fillet in. Yes, it seems I had. I put a fillet in over here so that it subtracts with the other item. And then here's the combine, subtract command again to give us this shape that you see there. Right. And then I think I added a few more details. I might not have done this in class, but here's a chamfer just on that edge. I think you know how to do that. And then I'm not sure what that sketch does. All right, that sketch was going to be in order to be able to split this item at the back. And then that fillet there, I'm not sure where that is. That's at the back, right? So it's a bit more detailing. And then another sketch, I think that's on the top. That's in order to split the two halves once I've split the back ends off. And then I'm going to finish the video off here with the shelling. So I finished this off so that I've got a little bit more detail, and then I shelled. So the shelling, you just decide on what your wall thickness will be and don't select any faces and say OK. And you should now have a shelled object.